All right, but first, more busloads of migrants arriving in sanctuary cities, and it's causing quite the meltdown among Democrats. Today, illegal immigrants were dropped off outside of Vice President Kamala Harris's home in Washington, D.C. In an interview with Vice News, Harris slammed Texas Governor Abbott and Florida Governor DeSantis, saying, quote, "I think it is the height of irresponsibility, much less just, frankly, a dereliction of duty." Meantime, migrants are pouring over the southern border. Look at this. Our Fox News drone team capturing hundreds of them crossing illegally. That is incredible video there. The number of migrants sent to Martha's Vineyard, just 0.0025 of the total encounters at the border so far this fiscal year. And Martha's Vineyard quickly shipped them out to Cape Cod.
Instead of scrambling and worrying about a bunch of rich people and having 50, and oh, by the way, they already bust them out. They're gone. They said we want everyone, no one's illegal, and they're gone within 48 hours.
Okay, let's take it out to the panel. Let's lay out the facts here first, right? 50 immigrants, illegal immigrants, purportedly asylum seekers, arrived in Martha's Vineyard. They were quickly taken away to an Air Force base, a military base in Cape Cod, because I guess the island couldn't support the immigrants. They didn't have enough housing. But let's be honest, this is an island with a plethora of hotels, motels, Airbnbs, plenty of rooms. Typically during the year, 17,000 people live on the island. In the summer, that number swells to 200,000. So I think there were a couple of places maybe they could have stayed. I would like to put up right now a list of states that call themselves sanctuary states. Let's take a look at them. There you see California, Colorado, Connecticut, Illinois, and Massachusetts. So Massachusetts does consider itself a sanctuary state. Martha's Vineyard is in Massachusetts, right? So Jason, I want to ask you, and I know this question sounds a little sarcastic, but should they have taken these migrants in? Should they have put them up somewhere rather than send them off in just a day or two?
Well, they should have taken in, but that should never happen in the first place. Look, the Biden-Harris administration made a conscious effort to bring people in. They attracted them with this magnet that says, come here, we'll release you into the United States of America. And big states like Texas and Arizona, California, New Mexico have been dealing with this by the millions. So a few dozen show up in Martha's Vineyard, and oh my goodness, there's not enough Airbnbs to handle all this. Look, what Governor DeSantis is doing, what Governor Abbott's doing, what Governor Ducey is doing is right, to share a few out there. I used to be on the immigration subcommittee when I was in Congress.
Yeah.
You know what? Democrats are now, the White House is actually trying to blame Republican obstructionism. And I just laugh at that. Where is the Democratic bill if they're so adamant about it? And the Democrats have the House, the Senate, and the presidency. If they think the Republicans are causing this problem, it's only Biden and Harris that are causing this problem.
Well, I guess at the end of the day, it is up to Congress to do something about it, right? I mean,
well, the president can lock down the border. The laws are on the books. There's nothing on there that says you have to let all these people in. Legally and lawfully, we bring in about 1 million people a year. It's only under Biden and Harris that they changed something like 90 different rules. They're doing catch and release. The White House won't even speak with the Border Patrol at this point. Ask a Border Patrol agent what we should do. Those are the people that are on the front line that we should be asking this question to.
Yeah, they are, and a lot of low morale there, a lot of overtime, a lot of overworked people for sure. Dr. Sapphire, so in this case, we're talking about 50 people. But when you look at the border, when you look at towns like El Paso, Uvalde, Eagle Pass, Del Rio, thousands of people are pouring in over there. Talk to us about the impact health-wise on these cities. These people have to be screened. They've just made a long trek across the border. They're dehydrated. They need medical care. How does this impact the health infrastructure of a city?
Well, Anita, first of all, I think Governor DeSantis was just trying to make a point at the resources required to care for these migrants that are coming across the border in droves. And let's remember, 50 were sent to Martha's Vineyard. About 300 to 500 every day come into the small town of Eagle Pass, Texas. This is a small town. The average income of a household there is about $40,000. You think they have the infrastructure for these amount of people? Of course not. And Ron DeSantis made his point. All of a sudden, and you already quoted the numbers. I had it written down here. Martha's Vineyard, 17,000 residents live there all the time. In the summer, somehow they're able to take care of 200,000 people. There are a lot of empty homes. if anybody can handle having a few more people, I would think that it would be Martha's Vineyard. But you are right. You have health screenings. You have people who are requiring medical care. You need to get these children in schools. You need to get them in a safe environment. And this takes a lot of resources. And it's not going to work just by shipping them out other places. It's also not going to work just keeping what's happening right now, the status quo. We have to stop them from coming into the country, and it needs to be happening in an orderly process, because that, unfortunately, you're going to have these people suffering if they're just coming in because we don't have the resources to take care of them. But I just want to make one quick point, because we had Kamala Harris, the full screen earlier, where you said how she was essentially condemning what was going on. But let's think of this for 1 second. CNN recently said DeSantis' approval rating was over 50%. Texas Politics' newest poll came out showing Abbott has about a 46% approval rating, and yet the New York Times says Harris, the border czar, has about 39% approval rating. So something tells me Americans see that immigration is an issue, and obviously the Biden administration is not handling it correctly.
Yeah, Americans definitely think this is an issue. And to your point before, there are a lot of people who have been very critical about Governor DeSantis for pulling this, what they call a stunt, right? But I'd like to hear from some of the migrants, at least one man who said this was one of the best things that ever happened to him. Let's take a listen.
¿Duele? Pues la verdad no mucho, porque en vez de hacerme una maldad lo que hicieron fue hacerme un favor en realidad y pues no me quejo.
All right, so he didn't seem too upset there about being shipped to Martha's Vineyard. I also want to take a listen to how most of the mainstream media has viewed this whole event. Let's listen to this.
Look, here is short Ron DeSantis and, frankly, Greg Abbott and Doug Ducey. We hate immigrants. Get the F out, and we will help you get the F out.
This tactic by supposedly Christian right politicians like DeSantis, Arizona's Doug Ducey, and Greg Abbott of Texas is about as unchristian as it gets.
This is so cruel and so unnecessary, so uncalled for, and so brazen. It shocks the conscience of any fair-minded human being.
Some politicians would rather not only have an issue, but exacerbate it to the extent of literally human trafficking, as you said.
All right, so Tyrus, I'd like to get your thoughts on that particular media montage right there.
It is off-season in Martha's Vineyard. It is kind of a tough time to go, and I'm sure that the beaches weren't clean and whatnot. They didn't have the rakes out. But the Republicans didn't start this little shipping party. That was not DeSantis was not the first one. Abbott was not the first one. Who was that guy? Well, I'll do it like this. Who was that guy? Oh, yeah, it was the Biden administration who were flying people out on red eyes, which I can never get to go home, to all over the country, but they were sending them to North Carolina and Florida, and they were flying them out at night. So I guess if you do it at night, it's better. But again, this is first world problems, individuals who all of a sudden get affected, and the first thing they want to do is say, oh, it's not fair to bring them here. Don't bring them here. Where should we bring them? You talk about human trafficking. It's not in Martha's Vineyard. It's at the border. So the ones who are not sneaking across and getting these trips to these different parts of the United States are going through the cartel, are being strapped with fentanyl, or worse, if they're young, 30% of young women who are trying to cross, or if they're not gang raped, if they're not sold into the sex slave industry, like, that's real problems. Not, I stepped outside my house to have my cup of fresh coffee and I saw 50 people with smiles on their face taking selfies with their new cell phones that were given by the United States. That's not a kidnap victim. I've never seen a kidnap victim like this, ever, ever.
Yeah, the human trafficking, it starts when they contract, if you will, with these drug cartels. They are paying them thousands of dollars to these coyotes to come up north and bring them across the border. And they want to get caught because they know they're going to get released.
Right.
And it's been this magnet from Biden and Harris. You know what? If Joe Biden cared about this so much, then go to the border, meet with the Border Patrol. He's never done that in his 50 years.
Well, you know, the coyotes then get arrested for the drug trafficking and the trafficking of humans. But what happens? They get deported, they get sent across the border, and then they just walk right on back in because we have no way of stopping them from coming back in.
It is a big problem, guys. We could spend the whole show talking about it, but we have to move on.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.